Hi, I'm Joe Roth. At New Jersey Sharing Network, we're committed to saving and enhancing people's lives through organ and tissue donation and informing people about our life-saving mission. That's why we're proud to support programming produced by the Kirkos Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
Funding for this edition of Caucus New Jersey has been provided by the New Jersey Education Association, New Jersey Council of County Colleges, New Jersey Resources, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, New Jersey Sharing Network, dedicated to saving lives through organ and tissue donation, Johnson & Johnson, and by the New Jersey Office of the Insurance Fraud Prosecutor. Insurance fraud costs New Jersey families $1,300 a year. Promotional support provided by NJ Biz, all business, all New Jersey. And by bestofnj.com, covering all NJ has to offer.
Welcome, folks. Steve Adubato here. Everything you've ever needed and wanted to know about arrhythmias or dealing with an arrhythmia. We have Dr. Jonathan Steinberg, director of the Summit Medical Group Arrhythmia Center. Good to see you, doctor.
Thank you.
Now, I use the word arrhythmia only because it's been in our family. People have dealt with heart issues, arrhythmia. What is it?
Very simply, it's a disturbance from a normal rhythm. But it has an enormous spectrum ranging from very benign arrhythmias or irregularities that require nothing but reassurance to potentially fatal arrhythmic events.
What causes it?
Again, very variable. Sometimes it's just the natural behavior of the heart, but most often it's due to some illness in the heart, some cardiac condition. If you've had a heart attack, if you have high blood pressure, you're more vulnerable to all sorts of potentially dangerous arrhythmias.
So, it's so interesting. I think there's some misconceptions, and maybe just for me, but sometimes I confuse, sometimes when I'm getting here to the studio, if I'm working out in the morning and there's not enough time between the workout and here, and my heart's racing faster, I think that's an arrhythmia. What's the difference between arrhythmia and your heart just beating faster?
So the heart has an incredibly complex electrical system. Electrical, that controls the pumping of the heart. So that electrical system is very sensitive to what you're doing or experiencing. So when you're exercising, there's a great deal of release of adrenaline. Adrenaline stimulates the heart to beat faster and deliver more oxygen around the body to your muscles that require more oxygen because you're active.
But that's not an arrhythmia.
That is a physiologic, normal response to activity.
But an arrhythmia is something that is a defect.
That's correct. It is something that is abnormal that the heart should not, in its day-to-day working, experience.
How would one know they have it? How do you detect it?
Sometimes patients feel it. So
what do you feel?
So it's very variable, and sometimes it's subtle. It's real obvious if you feel an extra beat or a skipped beat. It's real obvious if you feel a sudden, abrupt, rapid, racing, chaotic heartbeat. But it's much less obvious if you suddenly feel more tired than usual, or if you have more difficulty with taking out the garbage.
Walking up the stairs.
Walking up the stairs. And many patients will walk into my office and say, well, you know, for the past year, I've had difficulty taking out the garbage. And I always thought I'm just getting a little older, I'd gained a little bit of weight. Turns out they've had an arrhythmia for the past year.
What do you do? Say someone has an arrhythmia. Obviously, it's case by case, patient by patient. We're not going to diagnose from here. But there are medications?
Yeah.
What are some of the most effective treatments out there?
Well, the first step is to make the diagnosis. Many arrhythmias are intermittent. So you walk into your doctor's office and you say, I feel X. Doctor does an EKG. EKG looks perfectly normal. So in that case...
Excuse me, so it's going like this. You don't see this?
No. Often not, when it's intermittent. So you have no clue. So you have to be a subtle diagnostician. And often that requires placing a monitor or having patients wear a monitor for a period of time. And during the period of time when they experience some symptoms, making an EKG recording. And there are real cool monitoring systems available now. There are some that we put on that are essentially a Band-Aid on the chest wall. And there are some that can be done through your own smartphone. So
Whoa, what do you mean through the smartphone?
you just hold the smartphone in your hand, and you can then generate an electrical recording on your phone. It is saved, and then it can be transmitted or sent to your physician. Incredibly powerful tool to record intermittent events, even that occur over a prolonged period of time.
It's amazing.
Amazing.
So, doctor, let me ask you this. You were telling our producers about Botox, and I'm saying, listen, I know about Botox. I will fully admit I've had Botox, except my explanation is I've had them for migraines back here. Believe what you want. But more importantly here, Botox is being used in connection with arrhythmias. So I'm trying to understand, what would Botox, you're not doing it to take lines away. Where's the Botox and what's its connection to the heart?
So you asked me about what happens when your heart is very rapid after you exercise. And I indicated that adrenaline stimulates the heart. So there are two opposing forces in the nervous system, and the heart is heavily innervated and therefore very sensitive to the input of these portions of the nervous system. One is stimulatory and one is the opposite. And both together often create an environment that allows arrhythmias more readily to occur. So Botox is a very powerful inhibitor of nervous system traffic.
Does it deaden the nerves?
It prevents the movement of chemicals that are involved in nervous system traffic. So when you inject Botox into the nerves that overlie the heart, you prevent some of the stimulation or inhibition of the heart electrical system, and that can prevent arrhythmias. And we did some pilot studies in Europe, and there was a dramatic reduction in atrial fibrillation in patients who received Botox or botulinum toxin during the operations for bypass surgery. And we're now in the midst of designing a large-scale clinical trial that will test it in large numbers of patients.
You think more people will ask for it?
I think so, because one of the beauties of doing this kind of work for arrhythmias is that we're actually not working in the heart. We're not destroying heart tissue to prevent an arrhythmia. We're modulating nervous system input into the heart.
Last question, doctor. What's the connection between arrhythmias or dealing with an arrhythmia problem and lifestyle?
Less than we'd like. There are certain things that you do that can trigger arrhythmias. If you drink in excess, there's a syndrome called holiday heart. You go to Las Vegas for the weekend, you overdo it, you come back with atrial fibrillation. Described decades ago, really does occur.
Heavy smoking?
Heavy smoking creates, over the long term, the abnormalities that encourage arrhythmias. Being overweight, same thing. And we've learned that if you stop smoking, if you lose weight, that can actually prevent arrhythmias as well.
Are you saying that ultimately a lot of this, beyond all that, is genetic?
A lot of it is genetic, and that's the one component of how arrhythmias occur that we understand least.
Dr. Jonathan Steinberg is the director of the Summit Medical Group Arrhythmia Center. I want to thank you for joining us. An important topic affecting a fair number of Americans.
About 2.5 million people.
I would say that makes it very important. Thank you, doctor.
You're very welcome.
We'll be right back.
To watch more Caucus New Jersey, find us online and follow us on social media.
We're joined once again by our good friend Jim Kirkos, President and CEO, Meadowlands Regional Chamber of Commerce. Good to see you, Jim.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Again, I ask you this every time you're on. Define the Meadowlands region.
The Meadowlands region has actually grown for some time. Initially, the Meadowlands Chamber started out with the 14 municipalities that made up the Hackensack Meadowlands Development District, which was all of the wetlands in and around the sports complex. So there's 14 municipalities. But over time, that region economically and through development has grown to be about 28 or 29 municipalities. So take a picture of Hudson River, Route 17 or Passaic River, east and west, George Washington Bridge, Statue of Liberty, north and south. So we call that the greater Meadowlands region.
So here's the thing. You and I have been having this conversation, along with a lot of others, as to what the challenges and the opportunities in that region are. So there's this initiative called the 2040 Foundation that was established. Fletch Kramer, some others, other business leaders up there, created this along with the chamber to do what? And what's supposed to happen in 2040?
So what we really want to do is we want to make sure that we are business planning or vision planning for a sustainable economy through the year 2040. And what we've seen—
That far ahead?
Well, listen, what we've seen is most public policy is driven around the next election. And we've also seen a Meadowlands Commission that was absorbed by the Sports Authority not renew their master plan. And so—
Oh, back up. You got jargony on me right
Sure.
there. You're saying that so much of what happens in the Meadowlands area is a product of what happens with the Sports Authority.
Well, the Sports Authority has now absorbed the regulatory process of the New Jersey Meadowlands Commission.
Why does that matter?
Well, because they are the permitting entity and the regulatory entity that drives economic development as well as environmental protection in the Meadowlands area.
Why does that matter? To the average person, why does that matter?
Well, it matters because in order to sustain an economy, you have to be able to responsibly develop and create jobs.
Got it.
And so we want to look well into the future. We believe, along with those leaders and people that have invested mightily in the Meadowlands over the years, that we need to take a snapshot. We need to look forward and say, what will it take to sustain an economy, create a great quality of life in all of those wonderful communities, one of which I live in, up there in the Meadowlands, through the year 2040. And if we don't start thinking about that future, how will we ever get there? It's kind of like a roadmap to in a business plan.
So let's go through some of the key issues that the Meadowlands area— by the way, for those of you watching us in multiple states, but anywhere, particularly in New Jersey, realize what we're talking about. You want to get into New York City, and you come north from a southern part of the state, and sooner or later you get on Route 3, you're coming through the Meadowlands district. So you got traffic issues, we got congestion issues, we've got environmental sensitivities, we've got development issues, we've got opportunities. How the heck, at this point, not to mention we got competition with New York?
Sure, we're next to the greatest city in the world, but the real estate in the area that you just described is amongst the most valuable in the entire country.
Even today?
Even today. Meadowlands properties are on fire right now. Warehouse, logistics, distribution, light manufacturing. There's not enough capacity right now. So there needs to be development and redevelopment of those particular properties so we can continue to create great jobs.
Mass transit part of this conversation?
Absolutely. No great economic development can take place anywhere, especially in the Meadowlands, without mobility. And transportation infrastructure investment is one of the hallmarks of what we do.
Do you worry about the traffic issues over there and the capacity problems on the Turnpike, the Route 3, and the other roads leading into New York?
Absolutely. That's exactly why we want to look forward into the future. For instance, just last week I was talking to the folks at Uber. I want to understand what they're thinking about, because they're thinking about 10, 15, and 20 years from now. I want to understand what autonomous vehicles are going to be like moving people and goods and services.
Hold on, autonomous vehicles.
Yeah. Autonomous vehicles are going to move goods and services in not 10 or 15 years, maybe 3 to 8 years. What does that mean for us? How can we take advantage of it? Will it be a low-cost solution to help create some linkages in our community? It's possible.
You're saying if we don't think about these things, Jim, and we just take it election by election, year by year, crisis by crisis, what happens?
We become totally reactionary instead of thinking about this in the future and organizing and planning it. And we're not only doing this with business community, we're involving all the local mayors. There's buy-in. You know, when we developed this plan, which we will release in October of this year, of 2017, we're going to hand the next governor, whoever it may be, we're going to hand the next governor a document and a roadmap to a vision plan with priorities that's signed off by all those mayors and business leaders, because we want it to be a powerful document.
So let's be clear. There'll be a new governor replacing Chris Christie. There'll be election in November of 2017. A new governor will be inaugurated in January of 2018. And you're saying, we will tell that governor, this is our plan. And you expect that governor to do what?
Well, we're hoping that the governor and his policy people, or her policy people, will see the work that's gone into this. We're working on this for over a year, and the data that will support it, and they'll look at it and say, okay, we got ourselves a roadmap. We can buy into that. We want to help you do that.
But what's the role of state government in this?
Well, the role of state government is to enact it through its regulatory entities, and so while
You mean the Sports and Exposition Authority?
Well, sure. So it's taken. Listen, I'm not here to beat up the Sports Authority. The Sports Authority has been a great entity, and so is the Meadowlands Commission. And now that combined entity that will govern economic development in its district.
It's not two entities anymore. It's
no,
one.
it's one entity. Correct. And so now that combined entity must be a force to leverage all that we can be in that particular region. And our job as someone that doesn't get to make the decision is to put something and put a vision in front of those people that do make the decisions and say, here's a plan, here's a vision, let's implement something.
But Jim, we have a cross-promotional relationship, and to disclose that, while no dollars change hands, it's been a great cross-promotional partnership, and that's wonderful. But the reality is, I would be remiss if I did not ask you, because people do wonder about it. You see that American dream project stuck, and they say, are you kidding me? 16 years? How long is this going to be going on? So you're talking about all these big picture issues, which everyone's excited about, and we see the possibilities. To many, that's an eyesore. You say, I know you're not happy with it.
No, listen, I feel at times, every once in a while I'd be a liar if I didn't say I didn't feel like a little Don Quixote here. But the fact of the matter is, I've had the time to understand and research that project. It is a total game changer for not only the region, but the state.
Why are you still so bullish on this?
Because I have a relationship with the folks, the Gramasian family and 555 that are building it. I understand the impact it's had in Mall of America and West Edmonton Mall, and I want that for this region.
No, I know you want it, but what makes you still believe it's doable?
Because they're not walking away from it. Their commitment is 1,000% to do this project.
What's it going to look like?
It's going to look unbelievable. It will be, listen, it will not be the eyesore. This whole project will be transformed, and it will be something that makes everybody really proud. 20,000 plus jobs just in and around that district, filling hotel rooms in the entire region. And let's talk about, let's see what filling hotel rooms.
Transformational?
Totally transformational in so many ways, helping businesses all throughout the region. It will not be the black hole that people fear about. It'll be an economic engine.
No one is going to accuse Jim Kirkos of being a pessimist, I'll tell you that. You are the ultimate optimist, and maybe that is what's needed in the Meadowlands area.
Got to keep driving.
Jim Kirkos is the president and CEO of the Meadowlands Regional Chamber of Commerce, and to say once again, we have a cross-promotional relationship where we promote each other's work, and we want to thank you for doing what you're doing. I look forward to moderating the next forum with your group.
Thanks so much for having me.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
To see more Caucus New Jersey with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato PhD. And follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
We're pleased to be joined by Dr. Jon Connolly, President, Sussex County Community College. Good to see you, Doctor.
It is good to be here. Thank you.
Describe Sussex County Community College.
Sussex County Community College. I've been there about a year and a half, and I would say that, first of all, it is small. It is truly community-based. It's well embedded in its community in Newton and in Sussex County, and it serves intimately that community for the last 20 to 30 years.
You know, we've interviewed a whole range of college presidents in your sector, as well as in the independent sector and the public, sector and the four-year colleges. What do you believe makes the county community colleges unique and special in this state and the nation?
Well, I would say that in this state, and I really have been around, I have served in a community college system in Maine, Texas, Wyoming, and now in New Jersey. And what I really like about the community college system in the state of New Jersey is that they're truly independent. Every single one of these community colleges reports directly to a freely elected and or appointed board of trustees. All these community colleges are in one way or another connected to their communities. There are other places like in Texas, they're really large systems. There's a chancellor, there are other kinds of connections which frankly interfere with those community colleges being able to be responsive to the local needs. One example would be in Texas, there was the admonition that we shouldn't be purchasing materials from the local vendors. We need to be purchasing from Oklahoma and Texas. You can imagine how that went down.
Yeah, Oklahoma and Texas.
That's right.
Not that football had anything to do with it, or rivalries.
Yes,
but in New Jersey, how's it different?
Well, the Community College Board of Trustees provides the governance oversight for those colleges, and and the downstream effect of that is that the community colleges here in New Jersey can respond rapidly to local needs, and they can respond definitively. The bureaucracy here is really, really thin. I mean, you think, well, bureaucracy in New Jersey, thin? In the community colleges, it really is.
I mean, you can get things done, because
that's right.
My understanding is that in your college, you just actually created 2 new academic programs, 6 new academic programs, yes, which is not easy to do if you have a thick, heavy, cumbersome bureaucracy.
That's right. When I first arrived, I said what I would like to do is develop 2 new academic programs every year.
Two every year?
Yes, as a charge. Well, that was within my first month. The reason I felt that was important is that my college had really not done much innovation in the last decade or so, nor was it focusing on workforce and work-related skills that are simply up and coming and terribly important. So my suggestion was that we get going and do 2 a year. Well, I found that we can do things much faster than that, and you're right, we were able to do 6 within 1 year.
What are those programs, those new programs?
Well, we've got several technical options in welding and in music. We had not had those before. We've improved what we've got going on in our automotive program. So those are the really, really big and important ones.
Doctor, how do they respond to the needs, the market, the demands of the students you serve?
Well, what we need to do is keep our eye on what both students and parents are asking for and what employers are needing and asking for. If the community college is not responsive to employer needs, and it's one of those interesting things, and I've been emphasizing this, but I ran across it again this morning, how important this particular principle is. When developing a new academic program, the question always comes, is there a job for people at the end? Is the market saturated in these kinds of things? That's an important question.
Right.
However, if community colleges and employers and others think that what we really need to do is if there's a need for 30 of such and such a person with those skills in the workforce, that if we were to have a program that was graduating 20 to 30 every year, that we'd be saturating the market quickly. Flooding it. The problem is that assumes that an employer doesn't want any choice in the marketplace. If you're an employer, how many applications would you like to see?
I'd like to see a lot of them.
You'd like to see a lot of them.
Give me options.
Give you options, give you choice. And the fact of the matter is that that's really required. We as a community college need to be putting out many students with these skills, frankly, so that employers have got choice about what's going to be right inside of their organizations. And it's important to keep that in play. If we are only providing just a one-to-one, then that's not helping the marketplace at all.
Doctor, talk to us about college affordability, particularly in your sector, because I know there are a lot of collaborative efforts with the 4-year colleges and universities to try to figure out how you can deal with this. But how do you see it? And is New Jersey different from the other places you've been when it comes to college affordability?
I think that the fundamental challenges remain the same. And what's happening right now is a dynamic, for example, in Wyoming is very much the same. Where is the money going to come from? State education is simply a subsidized activity. It has to be. In order for it to be affordable for students and families, government at some level is going to have to subsidize that activity.
Someone says, oh, come on, government doesn't have to be involved. Get government out of the business of higher ed, particularly community colleges. You say?
I say, if you think that is the case, you're still going to be pushing those costs downstream. Either there'll be people who will never be able to go to college. And what impact does that lack of investment have in our economy? In a hyper-competitive global marketplace where you have to have these kinds of more advanced skills. The entire country will have a very serious problem if we are an underskilled country overall. Second item related to that is that if we are going to have only a limited number of folks, where is that money going to come from? Well, the state should stay out of it. Do not subsidize higher education. Let the marketplace handle it. In essence, it's all entirely privatized. Let's say you had a scenario like that. The cost is not going to go down. There is a threshold at which you cannot go any lower in order to operate it. So the money is going to come from student loans or grants of one kind or another from the federal government. So there's no way around this issue, but what it does affect is who will have access to it. And I will tell you that in community college, and who won't. Let me just tell you a story, a magnificent story that illustrates this point. 2 days ago, we had a graduation breakfast. Playing the piano at that graduation breakfast was a young man, 23 years old, who didn't know how to play the piano 3 years ago. He taught himself how to play the piano at the same time that he was homeless, living out of a car in our parking lot. He was going to school. He went to school. He is finished. He graduated just yesterday. He is now going to be going to NJIT for engineering. This is what community colleges do. And this person has changed their stars, their life, but to our benefit. Think about society's benefit. Imagine the trajectory otherwise without the opportunity provided by the community college.
How much you love what you do?
A lot.
It comes out.
It's a passion. I mean, we are changing people's lives permanently. And that makes you joyful every time you get up and willing to fight, willing to advocate.
Dr. Jon Connolly is the president of Sussex County Community College. We thank you for joining us and wish you and your team nothing but the best.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
The preceding program has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of Caucus New Jersey has been provided by the New Jersey Education Association, New Jersey Council of County Colleges, New Jersey Resources, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, New Jersey Sharing Network, Johnson & Johnson, and by the New Jersey Office of the Insurance Fraud Prosecutor. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. Caucus New Jersey has been produced in partnership with TriStar Studios.
Think this is absurd? Insurance fraud costs every New Jersey family over $1,300 every year. Report fraud at njinsurancefraud.org.